All right, I think we're ready to get started. Welcome, Internet. How goes it? Happy Tuesday. It's Tuesday. You guys know what time that is or what that means. That means it's No, that means it's time for more mental health goodness. I am your host. This is a place to heal. My name is James. Before we get started, I'll introduce myself. For those of you who are new to the stream, this is a place to heal. My name is James. I'm a relationship and mental health coach. Been in the mental health field for 5 years. I offer coaching services, both one-on-one coaching and also programs designed to help you master relationships, master dating, and master your mental health. So tonight, what we're going to be talking about is a little bit of an individual mental health topic. We kind of alternate between talking about kind of relationship and family focused stuff and then also talking about individual mental health. So we'll pick an individual mental health topic for tonight, and that topic is social anxiety. So we'll get into what is social anxiety, what does it look like, what are the signs and symptoms, and then lastly, what to do about it. So let me hop on over to my screen here and we'll preview it, and then we'll dive right down, and then we'll finish up the night as per usual. Either some games or some music. I haven't decided yet. I've been getting back into the music pretty heavy lately, but we'll see if it'll make a return to stream tonight. Let me blast out that we're live here. Eventually I want to start setting up a multi-stream. Dive into a preview. Social anxiety. What is it? What are some of the signs and symptoms here? We'll preview it really quickly here just to get the ball rolling, and then we'll go through it a little bit more carefully here. Got a couple of videos that we'll watch as we discuss it.
5 signs that you could have social anxiety. And the first sign is that we are super self-conscious. Number 2, we fear regular social situations and avoid them as much as possible. Number 3, we replay
what's up,
social
James? How are you doing?
over and over again. Number 4,
How's your night going?
we have digestive issues that pop out of nowhere. Number 5, excessive sweating. 5 signs that you could have social anxiety.
Guys, I think I literally have social anxiety disorder. I think I'm 5 for 5 on that one. So anyway, that's a brief introduction to social anxiety disorder. We've got a couple of videos that we'll go through to talk about it. So I need to, let me see, let me get...
Identifying a single purpose in life feels really hard. It also feels consequential. Many people spend years searching for and developing their purposes, and some never find it. But
mine is to get through life with as little work as possible.
Typically, we see responses like this: to be an engaged parent, to make meaningful change in my community, to build a career I'm proud of.
Some very selfless people in that audience.
Keeping it simple. But then there was the answer of one young woman who I worked with. Before meeting with her, as I always did, I flipped to see how she described her purpose. And she wrote this: to avoid being noticed by other people.
Oh, I think I changed my
This
answer.
young
I think
woman,
mine
a
is that one.
bright, witty, compassionate high schooler, decided that her purpose in life was to make sure that other people did not know that she existed.
You can be a
This is
Twitch
the
streamer
power
while
of
not being
social
noticed by other
anxiety.
people, right?
At its core, social anxiety is about the fear of being rejected. When we feel socially anxious, we become hyper-focused on how we are appearing to others. We scan the room, looking for signs of threat and disapproval, signs we might have slipped up and are at risk for rejection. And then we seek comfort in signs of approval: smiles, head nods, laughs, and so on. And while social anxiety can be exhausting, it exists for a reason. Social anxiety tries to protect us from rejection, and it does that by tuning us into the nuances and norms and dynamics of a social group so we can match our behavior to fit in with them and ultimately avoid being rejected. Now, this is
I like that. So when I was younger, was definitely painfully shy, and I had horrible social anxiety. I think now I'm at the point where I've worked through it. I think I still have a little bit, honestly. I think I have more. I think I've realized lately that I have more than I thought that I did. But definitely when I was really young, I remember some of my earliest memories were of like there was some play that we were doing once, and I had to like read some, or maybe it wasn't a play. It was like I went to like my comfy gray sweatpants with my nice collared shirt. It's a look, man. But yeah, I like how she brings up talking about fear of rejection as the ultimate root cause of social anxiety. And I think tied to that is this concept that we've talked about several times on stream before, is this idea of like hypervigilance. So most people with social anxiety really struggle with hypervigilance, specifically scanning their environment, looking for signs of disapproval or rejection from other people. I think it's one of the things lately that I've kind of realized, I think I struggle with that still more than I thought that I did. And some of it's probably just like trauma that I still have yet to work through. But I think hypervigilance is like a thing that I've noticed. And this kind of ties into another thing that we talked about with fearful avoidant attachment, of people with a history of trauma quite often have the tendency to be hypervigilant, scanning for danger of all kinds. But I think social anxiety or danger from social situations can be another common thing that they're hypervigilant for. So we've talked about attachment on this stream. If you haven't caught one of our attachment streams, we'll circle back around and talk about more about attachment, because that's a wheelhouse that I think of or that I see the world through quite a bit. But you can also check out my Instagram, which is full of all sorts of mental health stuff, but specifically talking about attachment, the different attachment styles as well. So
it's problematic when it begins to interfere with the life you want to live. And this happens when your fear of rejection becomes intertwined with your view of yourself. When you believe you will be rejected because you think you have some inherent flaw, deficiency, or failing of character.
So just out of curiosity, if people out there that are watching are comfortable, if you think that you have experience in the past or currently struggle with social anxiety, toss a 1 up in the chat. I want to put a 1 for myself here, because like I said, your boy was painfully shy in the past, but I think probably still struggling just a teeny tiny bit. So if you feel comfortable, actually, you know what? Let me start a poll here so people don't feel like they're called out. I'll call myself out. You guys know that I answered yes. So let me start up a poll here. I am boomering at social media so hard, or at Twitch so bad right now. Stream manager. Do you think the man on screen is handsome? I mean, no, that's not the poll. Hold on. Social anxiety. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing, guys. Don't distract me. Have you, or do you, or have you ever struggled with social anxiety? Yes. No. Maybe. IDK, bro. It's very, very, that last option is very important. So if you're willing to admit, feel free to toss up a yes in the poll. We'll see how many of us this applies to here. But let's dive back in.
You were ghosted after that first date, and you believe it's because you are not lovable or attractive enough. You were
that's what I tell
turned down
myself.
from your dream job, and you believe it's because you are not intelligent or competent enough. You were ousted from that friend group, and you believe it's because you're not interesting or funny enough. Our fear of rejection is really a fear of being less than we want to be, less than we think we should be, or less than we believe society wants us to be. And over time, this belief system can develop into social anxiety disorder. When a person has social anxiety disorder,
and I think, so it's interesting too, there's a lot of research out there that shows that incidence of social anxiety disorder is actually increasing lately. And I think that she kind of, in a roundabout way, pointed out the causes for it. And I'm going to say 2 major reasons why it's increasing. One is social comparison, right? Especially with social media and everything out there. I think it's so common to just like, for everyone to rip themselves apart. I know I really struggled with the habit of doing it for a long, long time. I think now I'm a little bit more compassionate with myself, but man, I used to tear myself apart when I was younger, for sure. But this constant comparison of like, I'm not this enough, I'm not that enough. And so we kind of walk around with all this negative self-talk in our head. And then we just assume that everyone else thinks the same thing too. And of course, if we dump on ourselves all the time and just assume that like we're unlovable, we're not good enough, we're not this enough, we're not that enough, and then we assume, we kind of project that onto everybody around us, right? So we think everyone else thinks the same thing. Obviously walking in any room is going to be uncomfortable, especially with people that you don't know well. You're just going to assume that they're going to reject you, right? So I think social comparison is a major reason. Oh God, what was the other one? I'm having a senior moment, guys. Gideon Mercy, what's up, man? How goes it? How's your night going? Welcome to the channel. Hopefully you get something out of tonight's topic. We're talking about mental health stuff.
They become overly concerned about other people scrutinizing them.
Doing good. Thanks for asking. That's awesome, man. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it.
Harshly and ultimately rejecting
Welcome to the channel.
them. So much so that they begin to construct their lives around avoiding rejection. Because if you can avoid being noticed by other people, then those people have fewer data points on which to reject you. Now, social anxiety disorder.
How is everything going over there? Everything is going well. My friend just came back from vacation and ready to hop back into streaming, and loving it, man. Talking about mental health stuff is my passion. So welcome in, my friend.
Is one of the most common mental illnesses in the world. In the United States alone, more than 12% of Americans at some point in their lives will have diagnosable social anxiety disorder. That's roughly 40 million people. Now, worldwide,
that's a lot of people,
estimates are lower. They're 4%, which in and of itself is interesting. But based on current population estimates, 4% of the world's roughly 300 million people that will potentially have social anxiety disorder at some point in their lifetime. And despite how prevalent it is, it's...
So for comparison's sake, the U.S. population is about, it was 250 million last time I checked, but U.S. population, what is that nowadays? So 335 million. So almost the entire U.S. population's worth of people. This is worldwide, though, right? U.S. population was a little bit less than that. But the equivalent of the entire United States worth of people in the world struggle with social anxiety. So if you think that you struggle with social anxiety, you are not alone. There are a lot of people that are in the same boat as you. How long have you been streaming in general? That's a good question. So I streamed for about a year consistently 2 or 3 years ago, and then I took a long break from streaming, and now I'm back, and I've been back talking about mental health stuff and doing gaming and music for the past 2 or 3 years.
Widely misunderstood.
I mean, for the past, 3 or 4 months.
Widely misdiagnosed, and often missed entirely. This is because several myths about social anxiety pervade our culture. The first myth is that people with social anxiety are happier alone. The stereotype of someone with social anxiety is a recluse who'd rather be hiding away alone in their bedroom than out interacting with the world. And this is simply not true. In research conducted in my lab, we find that people with social anxiety disorder desire strong, healthy, intimate relationships to the same degree as those without mental illness. And they do socialize, they are not robotic aliens. And when they socialize, they often enjoy doing so. In fact, when we ask people with social anxiety how happy they are, they report feeling happier when they are with other people than when they're alone.
And this could be one of the hardest things too. A lot of people have this misconception that if you have social anxiety, you're an introvert, right? And we've talked about personality. We're gonna have to have I don't think I've done an actual personality type stream before. There are a million different personality types, but most people are familiar with the difference between an introvert versus an extrovert. So for those of you not in the know out there, an introvert typically is interested, or they can be perfectly fine to interact with people, but they need to have time alone to recharge the batteries. Whereas an extrovert can tend to get burnt out from ironically being alone for too long and recharge the batteries by being in social situations. So in regards to social anxiety, a lot of people think that if you're a person that struggles with social anxiety, you're definitely like an introvert, right? Because that's the stereotype, shy introvert type. However, that's not necessarily the case. So you can actually be an extrovert and have social anxiety. Then it really sucks, right? Because like she's kind of mentioning here, the way you recharge your batteries is by being around other people, but also it makes you super anxious. So it's kind of a catch-22 for people like that. So, and regardless, even if you're an introvert, you still have like a baseline need for human connection and stuff. So yeah, social anxiety can make it really tough to get your like social needs met, right? Because we all have a need for closeness and connection with others.
This is because not all
even me occasionally,
interactions
not really,
are stressful.
Maybe
Someone feels socially anxious with friends, but not their romantic partner. Or they feel anxious with strangers and acquaintances, but not people like their neighbors or coworkers. So even though some interactions are stressful, people with social anxiety are not devoid of the basic desire for human connection. They just have trouble obtaining it in certain situations with certain people. Okay, so maybe then people with social anxiety do socialize, and when they do, they enjoy it, but it's with a small, tight-knit group of people. And really, social anxiety is about avoiding the spotlight. And this is the second myth.
Big groups of people
social anxiety is not
that they don't
necessarily
know.
about a fear
That's kind of a
of
key
public
trigger.
Performance. Well, this is true of some people. Other people with social anxiety find performing in front of others less anxiety-provoking than smaller, more intimate conversations, like where they have to carry a conversation one-on-one. Many people with social anxiety excel in careers that are intertwined with social evaluation and social performance.
Ooh, that's actually a good point that she brings up. So I remember for me, so I've worked in the psych field for about 5 years, and I've worked in, got the start working with foster and adopted kids. I've worked in psych hospitals, worked in case management. I've seen clients as a psychotherapist in training in grad school. And it's funny. So when I was working in psych hospitals, sometimes we'd be assigned to kind of like lead an entire unit. So like a unit might have like, I don't know, 8 to 10 people on it. But sometimes you'd be assigned to have like what's called a one-on-one, where you're just kind of shadowing a client or a patient one-on-one like all day for an entire shift. And usually it was because they had like special needs, or they were maybe a particular difficult case or at risk of behavioral issues or what have you. I always hated the one-on-ones. And it wasn't because those people were difficult. It was because like then I had to spend all day interacting with like another person, and I found it so much. And this is totally a social anxiety thing for me. And it was so much easier for me to just be up in front of a group of like 10 people, just kind of captaining the ship and just kind of talking to large groups, than like having to sit there talking to someone that I didn't know very well one-on-one for like 8 hours. That was like a nightmare for me. I was always like, man, I had to do a one-on-one today. Maybe I should just like call into my shift. It was so bad.
Modeling,
So
acting,
scared of or being afraid of the spotlight, not necessarily a thing with social anxiety, but a lot of people think that it is.
sports. In May of 2021, Naomi Osaka declined to participate in press conferences of the French Open. She courageously and preemptively shared that they exacerbated her social anxiety.
We have one vote for yes for do you or have you ever had social anxiety? Cool. Did I vote in that poll? I don't think I voted in that poll. So somebody out there, thank you. I feel less alone now. Your boy feels less alone and strange and different.
Shortly thereafter, she received a wave of public backlash and scrutiny. She goes on to play her first match, of course wins, and then she withdraws from the French Open. Many people were perplexed.
What's up, Flame? I didn't realize you were looking out there. How's it going, man? Thank you for voting. All you lurky lurkers out there. Yo,